Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 248. Let's see, I was black here. Let's switch the board around. And my opponent kicked off with e4 and I played c5, the Sicilian defense. So we get a normal line, knight f3, d6. You can see these are all the top choices. d4, the open Sicilian, c takes, knight takes. And now knight f6. Attacking the e-pawn and encouraging white to defend, typically with the knight. And now here's the big choice where you can choose between the Najdorf, the Scheveningen, the classical that I play, or the dragon that I also play sometimes. Chose to play the classical, just develop another knight. And I think the most challenging response here is bishop to g5 if you want to play against this. Basically putting immediate pressure on this knight, and usually Black will play e6 to avoid having pawns doubled over here, but that leads to a weakness on d6 and causes some problems throughout the early part of the game, so you have to take care of that. So that's probably the most interesting way for white to play. My opponent played bishop e2, a very respectable line. So now, but he's not putting any pressure on the king side, so I go ahead with my plan of g6. I really don't like to move the e-pawn. I like to keep it solidly defending the d-pawn there, so that's why I play g6 when I feel like I can get away with it. So my opponent castled here, play bishop g7, and now he played a very unusual move, h3. I don't know exactly what the point of this move is. First of all, the bishop and the knight are converging on this g4 square, but he also has it well covered, so I can't actually put anything there right now. He may be intending after h3 to play something like g4, and we can go to the notation tab since we're out of the opening book, and launch a pawn storm. But after h3 I started to wonder if there was maybe a weakness here I could exploit. This knight here is always a little bit, not always, is a little bit shaky at the moment because there's two potential attackers. There's one attacker already, and then the bishop is a potential attacker, and there's only one defender. So if I could move this knight with tempo, then I can pick up this knight on d4. So that's a possibility. The other way to play it, which actually the computer prefers, is knight takes d4, queen takes d4, and castles. And this is comfortable for black too, but I was looking to see if there was something more. And I tried the move knight takes d4, which knight takes e4 rather, grabbing the pawn here. And so now white has two replies, but you see if he just takes back the knight on e4, if he takes back this knight, then I can grab a knight here and I'm just a pawn up. So really the only reply here is knight takes c6. And then my queen is under attack, but I can grab a knight and attack his queen too. So this turns out to be about even. Yeah, did I have any other choice? No, I had no choice. I'm down a piece, so I need to grab some material back. And then his best move is to grab my queen, and my only reply, once again, is to grab his queen, because I've got to grab material. And now this is about as far ahead as I saw in my calculation. So in a real game, in a slow game, you really want to take your time and think ahead a little bit more. And what you want to do is figure out, okay, there's the material, I've won a pawn, and there's two pieces hanging, one from each side. So just on the surface, it looks like I may be doing okay, but it's white's turn to move, and you have to look to see if he has any good moves with that piece, or any other moves in this position that might cause trouble. So before you may play into this position, you should check that. And the best move here, which my opponent finds, it's not too hard. You move this knight with tempo. Well, it's not with tempo. It's you move it and grab a piece, because I'm going to have to lose a knight here. So he's going to give up his knight, and I give up my knight. If he were to just try and retreat, yeah, there's no good square to retreat to either. That's the other reason why it's not too hard. And he could try taking on b7 as well, I suppose. So, okay, knight takes f7 was played. And now my best move here is just to take the knight. So I calculated this part wrong. I was thinking, well, I could castle here and put pressure on the knight. And then if he takes my knight, I take his knight, and I've got an open file for my rook. So I was thinking I might come out okay, but This one I definitely miscalculated. The other one I didn't quite think it all the way through, although I got to a position that was about even, so I was sort of okay. But anyway, after castling, actually this is a losing move if white finds the right idea here. So the right idea for white is to play knight h6 check. So this is a move with check. And not only that, the key thing is the knight is moved to a square where it's defended. So I can take the knight, but now my rook is under attack. And if I move the rook out of the way, yeah, he's just going to grab the knight. I could try a knight move like knight b2, but then I'm going to lose the exchange. So that would have been how white could have won this game. So in this position, he didn't find that. He found the second best move here, knight takes d6. But that's a good example of that, of the situation where you find a good move, you want to look around and see if you can find a better one. And now I could play knight takes b2 here. I thought that was not working, but I neglected to notice that my bishop was actually attacking b2 as well. So the knight on b2 is defended. So I was sort of missing this idea of the bishops defending the knights, because I missed it for my opponent and I also missed it for myself. So knight takes b2 is the best reply there. And then after knight takes b2, if you look at it, cancel that. If you look at this position after knight takes b2, it's about even. Slight edge for white. He can play rook b1 to chase the knight, and I can take his knight. And how would that work out? Rook b1, e takes d6, rook takes knight, or bishop takes knight. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, material is even, and my pawn structure is slightly worse because I've got this isolated pawn that may come under attack. But typical kind of opening advantage for white. I haven't really given the game away yet. So instead, after knight takes d6, yeah, I thought that wasn't working. I thought I was losing the knight, so I thought I had to grab his knight. And now I'm just a pawn down, and not like that, I still have this weak pawn here, which he goes after right away with rook takes d1. So white is a pawn up, and he probably ought to go on to win, but it's not completely simple. I play bishop f5, counterattacking his c-pawn, and he should probably throw in this check. Bishop c4 check, and then c3, save his pawn. And it's still a bit awkward for me to defend this pawn. But instead, he grabs the pawn right away, allows me to take a pawn, and so his advantage got diminished by that transaction quite a bit. He then throws in the check. I go to the corner, and rook back to d2. So this is maybe not the best square for the rook. It's chasing my bishop away, but it's in the way of his bishop, and I have pressure on this diagonal. So I have compensation for the pawn in this position, I guess is what you could say. So white is still better. He just needs to be a little bit careful to untangle, and then he can go on and play for the win. Let's see, I played bishop to e4. I really didn't want to play, I mean, this move was tempting, bishop to f5. I thought about this, but I thought this move would be a bit awkward. Bishop e4. I guess I could come back here anyway. So that sort of induces the weakness, and then you go back here. I was thinking I had to retreat along this diagonal, and there weren't any good retreats. That's covered, and I didn't want to go all the way back to that square. But I had bishop e4 there. Okay, so I missed that, and I went to bishop e4 directly. And he plays f3, kicking it. Not a problem. I just drop back to c6, where I have a nicely anchored piece, so I don't have to worry about it being loose and being the subject of tactics. He goes rook b1 to unpin his b-pawn, and I put my rook on the c-file, looking at his bishop. He attacks bishop e6, he attacks the rook, and so I go here, hitting his bishop and also threatening to come to the 8th rank, which I thought might be interesting for me. It's always a good thing to look at if you can get a piece down near your opponent's king. So he has to retreat the bishop. He went back to b3. And then I played rook e1 check. And now the next move, he's only got 2 moves, and one of them keeps him in the game. You can see here, king f2, and the game is still about even. So I still have compensation for my pawn. He's a pawn up, but I've got active pieces, and he's still a bit tangled here. So I could still play on in this position, but instead he goes the other direction, king h2, and this is pretty much game over. The king has no squares after this check, so this is all forced. He's got to play this pawn up. Oh, the engine points out if he plays f4, bishop takes f4 check, g3, and rook h1 mate is mate in 2. So that's kind of nice. Now, let me show that on the board. f4, bishop takes, g3, and then rook h1 check because of the light squared bishop here, supporting the rook in the corner. Always a mating pattern you've got to watch out for. So anyway, he played the only other move, g3, and now I can grab this pawn on f3, and once again I'm threatening this mate in the corner. Rook there is checkmate. So he blocks it with rook g2. That's the only move that avoids the mate. So and it's funny, the computer's suggesting bishop g7, which is kind of like torturing your opponent. The rook here is pinned and can't go anywhere, so I guess I'm in no hurry to take it. So I can just move my bishop to g7, and I'm still have a tremendous winning advantage. But that seems needlessly cruel. I go ahead and take the rook, and let's see, if he wants to play on, he should play bishop to f4. Bishop to f4 is an important move because it opens up his rook for defense of the 7th rank. So here I have a choice of taking. It's black's turn to move. I can take on f4. Why not just take on b1? Oh, because I get mated. Now that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, the two bishops can mate my king, which is open. Okay, so one has to be careful at all times. After bishop f4, then I have to take this bishop, so it doesn't take my bishop and checkmate me. And then he can take my rook, and then rook to e4, defending my bishop. So I'm a piece up in this line. Wrong move. Rook to e4. It defends my bishop and attacks his rook, and so he doesn't have time to take my other bishop. So this will leave me a piece up. That's the way to play it. I don't know if I would have found all of that if he had discovered the move bishop f4 there. That would have been interesting. Okay, but he just naturally took the bishop back, and then it's a mate in 2 from this point, because after this rook check, there's no good square for the king to go to. Well. He can throw things. Okay, I should look at this mate in 6 line. He goes here. I go here, check. And I thought he had to run to the corner and then I would checkmate him. But he does have this move bishop e3. So check. Again, the king goes to the corner. But once again, moving the bishop off the back rank has opened up his rook. So there's no immediate checkmate. I play here and try and checkmate this way. King g1, rook g2. King f1 is the toughest resistance. Rook e f2 check. King here is forced, and then the other rook comes down to mate. Okay, that's another nice mating pattern. After this move, rook e2 check. Yeah, my opponent resigned in this position, not seeing any way out. And in fact, there's nothing but forced mates on the horizon here. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.